was going to happen in court, what didn't happen in court today, and what's going to happen in the future. We're going to talk about why this is not a done deal, and we need to stop saying it's a done deal. So we're going to hang out for a couple minutes, let folks jump on. But if you're watching this later, just skip on another minute or two, and we'll be there. All right, I'm seeing some folks jumping on. Please hit that share button. Tag a friend. I think we've got a few anxious viewers. I think I've gotten about 14 messages while we've been sitting here. Sorry we're late, guys. That's my fault.
Everything's Wildman's fault.
Yeah.
It's just blaming a Wildman.
I'm the one that had to come back for Boaz.
It's been a day.
Yes. Yes, it has been. It has been an awesome day for Etowah County. Today was the first ever Bassmaster Elite Series tournament win by a local boy, Wes Logan from Springville. And second year as a professional angler, won himself $100,000 and a big trophy. So it was an awesome day, and Etowah County should be extremely proud. There was a lot of work done by the city folks, the folks at Coosa Landing, Hugh Stump, and the tourism board. This was a major deal. And so, yeah, that happened today. It was pretty awesome. All over the internet, national television.
What did you say? It's like the NFL of.
Yeah, it's like the NFL of bass fishing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a big deal. So
it's been crowded. Several days, restaurants and people in town, just the tourism and the people it's brought. It's exciting.
They were making jokes at the weigh-in about whether anybody actually works in Gadsden or not. So I don't know how funny that joke is to some. I can see the smart aleck comments in the comment section right now, but no, that was the folks from Bass that do this all over the country. We're really excited and really impressed with what our community rolled out and came and supported.
We're a great community.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they be? And this is just one of so many things, so many low-hanging fruit we have around here that we can change, and improve. Hugh Stump just does an amazing job, and it's exciting to see what he's done and what he's going to do more in the future.
Yeah. So one thing I did forget, I got to get set up so that I can see everybody's wonderful comments. We're getting there. But guys, go ahead and Reba Stanley saying congrats to Wes Logan. Yeah. It's a big deal. Very, very big deal. But guys, you can get your questions and comments in, and we'll get started here in just a second, and I'll let Christie do a whole bunch of talking about all the fun legal stuff. Maybe a little more fun for her than for some of us.
Yes, it is.
But all incredibly important and complicated. All right, so I'm up on comments. Awesome. Well, so you ready to start? It's been a while. So guys, I have on the Monday nights and Tuesday nights, the last few weeks, it's been kind of nice to not really talk rendering plant. But definitely felt this was necessary. A lot of the legal stuff certainly isn't happening as fast as a lot of us civilians, if you will, would like for it to happen. We know it's a process, and so we're trying not to talk about the rendering plant over and over and over and over again, but we've had some pretty major things go on in the last couple of weeks, particularly today, that we need to get back up to speed.
Yeah, and I think I may backtrack. A lot of you guys already know this. You follow it really closely anyway, but I do just to set the stage a little bit, go back and sort of talk about how we got here. So we had filed the zoning case and the open records case. Authority and the IDA and the Water Board had all filed to that. We had motions, hearings for that. And we were kind of waiting for an order from the judge on those motions to dismiss in order to proceed with the phase where we get to do interrogatories and depose people and request for production of documents. And while we were in this sort of waiting time period, I was provided with a bid where Pilgrim's Pride has bid this project out again, and it was dated April 12th, and a contractor, it was just on his bid software he has just a program that sends him bids when jobs which fit within the category for which he wants to bid for, and it came up on his own bids that were out there. So he emailed that over to me, and it was clear they had an August 2021 start date. Pilgrim's Pride here, and so it became clear that Pilgrim's Pride intended to proceed, that it was not slowing down, despite the fact that we have the environmental team fighting the air permit, so they were still going forward. So Josh here at the firm filed a motion for an expedited hearing on a preliminary injunction, and that injunction sought to stop everything. Say, look, we've got this zoning case that argues that you have to rezone in order to proceed. It seems like Pilgrim's Pride is proceeding, and so, Judge, please just order everything stopped. Have a hearing so we can present this evidence to you, and in a preliminary hearing, you're saying, okay, until we have time to go through all of this and have a final hearing, just order everything stopped, Judge, until we have the opportunity, because by the time you set for a final hearing, it may be too late. So we filed a motion for a expedited hearing, and the judge did exactly that, which was great. We filed the motion, I think, like April 28th. That same day, maybe the next day, the judge issued an order setting the preliminary injunction hearing for today, May the 10th, which is expedited. That was really good. So so we proceeded to immediately issue the subpoenas that we needed in order to prove our case that we were that the judge had set for May the 10th. Because we haven't been provided records, we have a lot on our own that we've managed to get on our own. But
Right.
because the city and the IDA and all these other parties have not given us anything, therefore a lot of subpoenas had to be issued because we don't have the records. And part of our case was them on the stand and us asking questions to prove up our case. So I posted last week about who the subpoenas were to, and they all objected. Everyone objected, not just to, they didn't want to produce a record, they didn't want to come. Nobody agreed that a subpoena, which is a court order, to come. I mean, when you issue a subpoena to someone, people like you and me, we go to court, right? Because it's a court order.
Right.
But they filed a series of motions in order to, quash, saying, Judge, we don't want to come, we don't want to produce any records, and kind of rehashed all of the confidentiality arguments. Gosh, guys, that we have been fighting for 6 months, the same old stuff that the judge had actually already disposed of in his orders. He did rule on the motions to dismiss, and Greg at the newspaper did a really good article going through all of that. The judge basically threw most all of those out and said, okay, there's kind of one area that maybe would apply. So those the documents you submit to me, the judge, and the judge is going to review them and see if it even applies. So all the confidentiality issues had already been pretty much resolved, but they raised them again. And so as part of their desire to object. So, and everybody had their own attorney, so the judge ended up with, we had a hearing set today, but we had 8 motions to quash, to object, and so the judge really set the hearing for 2:30, and there really just wasn't going to be enough time to deal with all the motions that the subpoena parties had filed and have a hearing at the same time. And so when I saw all the motions that were being filed, I was concerned as well. Like, how is the judge going to hear all of these motions and give us enough time in order to prove our case? And so seeing that, I'm not the judge, but I would assume seeing all of that, he decided, okay, the records that she's asked for, that we've asked for, they're not going to provide them by May the 10th. They don't want to come. I'm just going to issue an order kind of addressing all of that. And that's what he did. He said, all right, by May the 17th, all records have to be into the judge. And May the 24th, every subpoena party needs to come.
Okay.
So he sort of rebooted and managed the motions that had been filed and and you know, it's very frustrating to have these delays. It's not uncommon.
Right.
And so the legal part of what we've seen from the city and the IDA and other parties is delay and obstruction and stall. So it's not like your normal case where this is new. We've been experiencing this for months and months and months. So I really wasn't surprised. I think the judge managed that very, very well. It's reset for a hearing pretty doggone fast. In legal world, setting a hearing for May 10th was fast, and then he set it again for May the 24th. Okay. So I think that's good. So the rulings he made were denying all of their motions to not they didn't want to bring any documents. He denied all that. He said, submit your documents to me, come to court on the 24th. And so we were ready to try the case. I wanted to try the case today, but I can certainly understand and appreciate that we just weren't going to have enough time in order to fully put on our case. And the records we had asked for, they were not going to be provided to me today. So
okay, so if they don't provide the documents to the judge by the 17th, what happens?
I think we should expect that. I think we should expect more motions, more objections to this order. I would not be surprised, but why wouldn't we expect that? That has been the pattern. It's been the practice, not just part of this court proceeding. And court proceedings, there are legal ways you can stall and obstruct. That's part of the game. So it's not like I'm criticizing, because I've seen that done. That's part of what I have to deal with, and sometimes that I do. But in this case, we're dealing with a government.
Right.
We're not dealing with you suing me suing you as a private party. This is our government.
Right.
That is obstructing, withholding documents, evidence, whether it's from a process they should have revealed from the very start, if they didn't, from an open records request that they didn't. Now we're in lawsuit world, and they still aren't. And to me, there is an obligation your government has to you.
Right.
And that you don't get excused from because you don't like it, or that you don't want to give it to or it affects you. That we should expect more from our elected leaders and the public documents and the public records that they have. So I think it's shocking. I thought it's shocking from day one. I know everybody else agrees with me that it's breathtaking how inappropriate this obstructive behavior is.
So we've got a couple of questions along that line. And what happens? So at what point does the judge hold them in contempt and put them in jail until the records are presented? I mean, is that a possibility?
That's many steps down the road for it to be criminal contempt. This is a civil case.
Okay.
And so you have civil contempt, which happens even before any type of criminal contempt. That is very, very rare. and it's hard to predict at what point, you know, we would reach that. I I wouldn't be surprised if we ended up in a contempt hearing. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope that they produce the records we've asked for. But if history is any bearing on where we're going, I, 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 I don't see. I see a continued pattern of obstruction. But we'll see. I hope not. I hope that they produce the records by the 17th the way that they're supposed to. We get our hearing on the 24th, and it all happens just the way the judge ordered today in his reasonable, well thought out order.
Well, so Jeremy Stewart, I think he echoes something that, and I try to stay focused on facts and what's happening and all that kind of stuff, but I can't help agreeing. He said that the more they obstruct and hide, the more integrity they lose, and your integrity is all you really take with you to the grave. Um, and that's something that, as I've seen this and been a part of this playing out, and in my little piece of the world here on the internet, and seeing discussions around town. I mean, there's two battles going on right now, right? There's the legal battle, and the things they're doing, as I understand it, are perfectly legal. They're perfectly legal proceedings for them to object and to try and delay and all the fancy, that's your world. Uh, but there's also the whole battle that all of us, voters, citizens, our community are looking at it going, okay, I mean, what do we think about the actions you're taking? Why can't you just tell us what the heck is going on? And I know I've seen it multiple times of people venting their frustration of, are we really going to keep playing this, well, y'all can't know anything game? I mean, at this point, um you know I, it just looks bad. I mean, I don't know any other way to say it, and it just looks really bad. And I don't understand why we can't have a civil conversation. I mean, I keep going back to, aren't we a bunch of grown adults? But I mean, I guess that's how you earn a bunch of money, is a bunch of grown adults that can't seem to get along.
Well, but yes, but conflict is my job. So
Yeah,
I get that, but this is different. This, and I get what Jeremy's saying. This is not just civil people, two
yeah,
parties fighting. This
right.
is people we've entrusted with the leadership of our city in order to appropriately manage our tax dollars, our assets, our public goodwill that we've provided in them. And so the idea of of hiding and not providing these records in this consistent, with no valid reason in order to do so, necessarily makes people beg the question, why? What are you not telling us? What are you not wanting to tell us? What's out there that you don't want us to know? And if it was such a great idea, if this was such a, why won't you tell us? And so I get that question, and I know you do too, Michael, all the time. Like, why? I don't know why, but it certainly looks very bad, and it seems to not be reasonable. It's one thing if in court you have a reasonable reason.
Right.
I don't know what that is. I haven't been provided one yet.
Well, and I mean, again, I try. I mean, we are the whole country of, you're innocent until proven guilty type of thing, and I don't like the conjecture. There's been tons of people that go right to the jugular on, oh, they're taking money, they're taking money. The reality is I don't know, but I'm definitely to the point, way beyond the point of, this is ridiculous. Just tell us what's going on. Bad news doesn't get better with time. So, hey, if you made a bad decision or a bad choice, and this gets into this whole concept of, uh, oh, it's a done deal. It's a done deal. We're hearing that. I was talking to somebody at the weigh-in today, who's like, oh, that sounds like this thing's a done deal. Um, it- you know, and we've talked a lot about that. from the legal perspective and your legal understanding, are you seeing anything right now that really tells you this is a done deal, or can you conceptualize a legal way that this could be done and they'll break ground in August and there'll be nothing that we can do as a community to stop this from happening?
Well, and that's the question that we've been batting around hit Knowles and Sullivan all day long. What could, because they'd have, what records could be out there? And so we've almost got a little flow chart about, could this have happened? Could that have happened? Because there's so many pieces that we don't know. So, could there be an agreement somewhere that we don't know about? Yes. Could there have been promises made that we don't know about? Yes. But in order to transfer property that is publicly owned, or enter into a long-term lease, or I can't. We've all trying to. We're unaware of anything that lets a government entity, whether it's the city or the airport authority, actually sign that deed or sign that lease, authorize someone to sign it without the open meetings and the open records laws applying. And so this whole argument we keep hearing in these motions, for example, last week, that all economic development records are confidential. That was been stated. That's just not the law, and that's what the judge said in his order. That's just not. He's actually pointed that's not really what the law is. Are they hanging their hat on that there's been, under the guise of economic development, there's been something improperly done? We're conjecture at this point.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to just best answer the question: could there have legally been a transfer that we don't know about? And I don't know. I don't see that there is a way to transfer publicly owned property and authorize a mayor or the chairman of the airport authority to sign a deed or sign a lease without there being a meeting and an open record and some type of now there may be an agreement to do a transfer.
Right.
Okay. There may be an agreement to do a lot of things, but to get to that transfer, and again, that's been Knowles and Sullivan's conversation all day.
Right.
We walk from each other's office to talk about, what about that? Well, could it have been like that? So we have pieces missing as well too.
Right.
But we're going to uncover everything. It's going to come out, and I just ask people to be patient with kind of the legal process and everything. It seems like it gets to a fever pitch and it can't get any higher, and then the dial gets turned up again. Guys, it's going to continue like that. And I think that like I said in my Facebook post, we just have to persevere. We have to keep fighting because it's coming out. And that's it's coming out. So let's go ahead and get it out.
Yeah.
Let's pull the Band-Aid off.
Yep. No, bad news doesn't get better with time.
Pull the Band-Aid off. Let's deal with whatever it is while we can still talk to each other and figure that out, because we're going to find out.
Well, so this whole concept of it's a done deal, and it's been said, well, a friend of a guy that knows a guy that's a brother of an uncle who knows a guy who was on a bus with a guy, and I mean, like, that's the kind of stuff we're getting. Which I have come to learn painfully in the last, what are we at? 7 months, whatever it is. It's a real good political ploy to just say things and try to make people believe it. And that's why I ask, is there a legal way that you understand? And I want to point out, there's a difference when politicians, or people say, oh, it's a done deal, there's no way that we can get out of this at this point.
Because they want you to stop.
They want you to stop.
Mm-hmm.
Or because it'd make me look really bad if we did, doesn't necessarily mean that the citizens, that the county, that that the city, that the government can't actually get out of, because there's no actual legal agreement Yeah, some people may, and I'm not saying like, oh, you might go to jail or something like that. I mean, I hope that's not the case. But hey, if you're worried that it makes you look bad to back out, well, I'm sorry. Like that doesn't mean that it can't be undone.
How you define a done deal
Right.
is not how I define a done
Right.
deal. Watch me undo your done deal. Yeah, and that's what I want everybody to under it. What people are saying is a done deal is a done deal. Um, don't. It might be, but we can undo it. I mean, we can
Right.
figure this out. Don't tell me 9,000 people and all the other thousands, plus everybody pulling the rope in the same direction in this county can't fix this. Don't tell me we can't, because we can.
Right.
And one guy up at City Hall is not going to sit here and tell me it's a done deal, there's nothing you can do. Don't believe it. Don't. I mean, we're not going to accept that, and we shouldn't accept it.
All right. So I guess along the same lines, I know. So we talked about there's some questions about whether they could have leased, whether the airport authority could have leased. Now, back to, is it a done deal? I believe the last airport authority meeting, they reiterated at the airport authority, the board stated again, we have not been approached about any sale or lease. If I remember correctly from what Reba reported from being there, which props to you, Reba, always. She's definitely keeping us in the loop. So everybody should thank her a lot. But I mean, so again, that's in a formal meeting that they're saying that.
Well, and we've seen the city for months now make representations on behalf of the airport authority. Something makes the city believe they have the right to do that. What is that document? Is there a document? Is there a missing piece that there's some type of authorization or authority the city has to speak on their behalf that allows the airport authority to go, we haven't been approached. That's not they don't know about it. They may not. I don't know. But we haven't been approached. We haven't been approached. But that doesn't necessarily mean.
Well, considering that more than half the airport authority board is also on the water board, which we've all we all understand the economics of the one plus, if you will, to the community as to why they push for this rendering plant. They got to make the water revenue. Totally get that. Not saying that for the holistic, it doesn't make any sense. And we've got a lot of folks out collecting the SSOs and all that kind of stuff. So even on that side of things, maybe it's not the best choice. So back to, you're sitting on the water board trying to claim like you don't know anything about this Pilgrim's Pride thing. Like, that ship sailed. Yeah. We know that's not the case. So, and I mean, now you're just squabbling on technicalities.
Been approached,
right.
Look, words are my job. I get that, words, you can parse words in certain ways. I might have been approached, but that the city has been historically throughout this, we've seen the city speak on their behalf in the, records that we have. So is there another record that allows them to? Somebody tromped all over that land.
Yeah.
Did every study, ran roads through it, put markers all over it. The airport authority says it wasn't them. Okay, well, who did you delegate your authority to? Is it someone at the city? Is it the IDA?
And if you don't know anything about it, then what exactly is your role at the airport? I don't know.
So that's another. So those questions are good. I just think there's pieces that we just don't have yet that should answer, but we're speculating a lot at this point. And if we're wrong,
hence the subpoenas and hence the request for documents.
If we're wrong, give us a document, city, to say we're wrong, or IDA. I will come back on here and admit I was wrong. I'm more than happy to. But at this point, none of it makes sense. And so when things don't make sense, people try to fill the holes in. That's what reasonable people do. That's not unreasonable in order to do that. And if you don't like how people do that, then you fill in the holes. Give us the facts.
Yeah. All right. So Reba asked, hold on, let me get it up on the screen there. Can she tell us if the Gadsden city attorney got his own lawyer?
I'm not aware that he has. Um, but he will probably be a witness
At some point.
at the hearing on the 24th. I mean, so he may end up getting his own. I don't know. I don't know whether he is or he's not. And I say that because his emails are exhibits to the complaint. I mean, his emails are a large basis for the complaint. So I'm not saying that to say, oh, the city attorney did it. It's because his
Right.
emails are important. So it's reasonable that he would be one of the people that would need to be called. Because again, we haven't been provided the records. So we've got to put witnesses on the stand to fill in, to learn. A lot of this is to put witnesses on the stand to go, hey, there's a record we do have. What do you know about it? And so if they give us the records, we could probably pare that list of 17, 18 people down a lot.
All right. Let me get through some of these. So here's kind of, I think, should be a quick one. Would it be legal for Pilgrim's Pride to lease the property and not buy?
And that's on our flow chart of possible options. That is one of them. It could be, yeah, it could. And in fact, some of the documents we've gotten mention a possibility. There was a lease option. So yeah, so that's part of one of the possibilities that we're looking into.
But again, the airport authority has said on multiple occasions they have not been approached about buying, selling, or leasing the land.
They have, and
But it could be a legal way that they could buy it,
well,
or that
or
they could develop it.
it, yes, but whether it's a sale or a long term lease, you know, whether the city has been authorized to speak on behalf of the airport authority or not. Let's assume they have been. Assuming that the airport authority has somehow authorized the city to speak on their behalf, or even if they have, they're both governmental bodies subject to the Open Records, Open Meetings Act. So whether it's a sale or a lease, that should have been the subject of a public meeting. And if it's not the subject of a public meeting, you can't do it. That's our position. And if they've that's happened, we don't know. We keep hearing part of the argument, part of the concern, right, in this case that we're going is that Pilgrim's Pride keeps saying they own the property. And we've got record after record where they claim they own it. On the construction bid from April 12th, they say they're an owner on that. So why are they saying that? Why can't you tell us that? Why won't Pilgrim's Pride? They wouldn't come either. So,
Well, along those lines, here's a question. I read on here where the waterworks and Pilgrim's Pride went to feds to get money to upgrade waterworks to handle the future output and was approved. Does this guarantee Pilgrim's Pride the property for its plant?
no, I don't. I knew, part of the water board documents that I put online is the art grant, and I don't know there may be another grant other than the art grant, but the fact that federal grants have been approved for the project to extend the sewer to that land does not necessarily mean that there's been a sale or a lease or any type of transfer so as to allow Pilgrim's Pride to come and construct. But it's again another indication. It could be another indication that they think they own it. Why do they think they own it?
Right.
What document is out there upon which they are relying in saying that?
All right, let's shift gears to the city council. A number of accusations floating around out there. A Facebook user. So my question is about the council members' subpoenas. Are these members named because they are involved, or the remaining members are in the dark?
Well, it really wasn't a matter. We subpoenaed Ben Reed and Cynthia Tolles. Those were the council members that we subpoenaed. And Ben, because he's on the water board and he was there. He was when all the water board events happened about Pilgrim's Pride. He was there. So Ben was really subpoenaed more from a council member point of view because of his service also on the water board. So, and again, it's because we don't have all of the records from the city. We have to subpoena people to get on the stand and ask them, what do you know about this? If you would give us the records, we may not need Ben Reed. And Cynthia was subpoenaed because she's the president, she's the council, and if anybody would have known about it, it should have been her. So, as the president of the council, she's in charge of the agenda, she sets the agenda, she does all those things, and would have, our understanding is, would have been the most likely person to have known. And so what did she know, what does she know, are all questions that need to be asked in order to prove our preliminary in order to bring proof to our preliminary injunction hearing, which is why we subpoenaed them and didn't subpoena the others. I don't know if the others, what they knew or they didn't know.
Right.
I don't. I mean, I know that Jason and Thomas have said they didn't know, but the rest of them, don't really talk to me.
I'm shocked.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm so nice. I don't know why they wouldn't talk to me.
I don't know why they. Yeah. Along those same lines, Jeremy Stewart, why aren't the council members that don't know about any of this in the beginning? Why aren't they asking any questions to their fellow members about what is going on?
Well, we don't know if they are or not.
Right.
Behind closed doors, they may not be. We just see at the public meetings, and which are just a piece of work. Those council meetings
right.
We've talked about a lot. So, I think that the council meeting certainly doesn't engender a lot of confidence and faith in the management of the city when you watch what's going on up there. But whether or not there's private conversations, I hope there are. I hope that these council members who oppose this or who didn't know are like, guys, y'all got to stop this. Give them some records. Get this thing over. That's what it's going to take. And I know everyone gets tired of me saying that. That's what it's going to take. It's going to take all of our leaders saying, enough. This is enough. We're, and because I do think it's just a handful. It's just a handful of people. Why are we letting a handful of people take us down this road? Those who have the authority and have the power need to stand up. It's going to take us all. We've said that from day one. You can't just go, I didn't have anything to do with it. You might not have anything to do with it, but you do now. Our whole county does. And if you're not speaking up, then you're not helping. And the idea of just sitting back and just watching as this goes on, those days are over. We need everybody to do what they can actively in order to use the power, the leadership they have in order to stop it.
Yeah, it's. I've said this to a few people privately. I haven't really gotten on here and talked about it. I see a lot of accusations that everybody's on the take, that everybody's getting money under the table and all that kind of stuff. And I've come to the conclusion, I think that's really ridiculous. I don't think that's happening at all. I'm not going to speculate that anybody is. I just don't feel like that's happening at scale, across the entire, like the city council did not collaborate to take money. And I mean, that's just, I just don't think that's happening. Are they making bad decisions? I definitely would say, yes, I think you're handling the situation in a bad way at best. At worst, you're just making really bad leadership decisions. But I don't know. I definitely, I do get tired of everybody, jumping in Facebook and saying they're all taking money. Is somebody taking money, I think there's obviously a possibility, and I don't know why anyone in 2021, with all that has occurred in the last 7 months, why anyone would not understand why people's perception would be that way. Then you need to wake up, because like it's 2021 America. Everybody thinks everyone in politics is taking money. So, if you aren't, and hey, if you don't really understand, maybe if you're like, hey, I'm not sure what I can do to stop this, or I don't understand, like, say that I don't know, but I don't know the way this is all being handled. It's just, you're just digging the ditch deeper and deeper and deeper. And again, back to, is all of this, the legal maneuvering, appropriate in the legal world? Sure. Would I ever tell anybody, hey, this is what you should do to make sure that people trust you in your community? You're ridiculously ignorant, completely tone deaf, and completely out of touch with what is going on in your community. But who am I? I'm not trying to advise anyone on how to run for politics, or any of
Well,
that kind of stuff.
I
But
do think painting people with a broad brush is a not helpful thing.
yes,
I do. I think saying every council member's on the take, that's not. I don't think that. I don't think that at all. And I think that doesn't kind of advance the conversation.
right.
I get the frustration from which that comes from, though. I really get that, because I like being in control of things and being work. And if I was just sitting there, on Facebook, having to watch this unfold, that frustration and wanting to say, oh, that just makes me so angry, and it must be this, it must be that. And I get where that comes from. I get to, kind of be from the, it can be a challenge sometimes, but from the part where I'm, fighting it in court. So I get to vent my frustrations in a different way. But I don't think that really helps to advance this. I think it's time that people have been able to express that. But I think it's almost time for a period of just really, really just cold calm. Like, okay, now this is enough. I mean, it's enough. I mean, and it's time for us to seriously talk about what meetings we need to have, what jointly we can come together. The leaders can we come together and have a meeting with these people? What can we do?
Right.
And there may be these meetings going on behind the scenes that I just don't know anything about, and I'm that big bad girl up there fighting with everybody, so they don't want to tell me. That's fine. But then there may be some of those. But I think it's time to a time of getting angry and yelling, and I think it's never a good thing. But I think now, playtime's over.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really over. And
I mean, people got, like, our mayor got subpoenaed. I mean, when was the last time that happened in Etowah County?
Right.
Right. Or I should say, I'm sorry, the city of Gadsden's mayor, because I live in Rainbow City. I cannot claim our, because I'm a neighbor. I don't live here. Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Well,
so I'm gonna deviate real quick. Christie King, and this is something that they've been talking in the in the comments about the price of the land. And I think Reba answered some numbers in there, but Christie said, how on earth did they come up with a number that's $125,000 per acre? Is there gold in them there woods? Christie, I would counter with the thought, and this is me and the aviation background that I have. Let's say Southwest Airlines, who has got a base out of Birmingham and does aircraft maintenance, says, hey, you know what? We are growing as an airlines, and we need a place that we can fly our airplanes into to do long-term maintenance. Something that might take a month and a half. The airplane's going to be down. They're pulling it apart or whatever. Well, hey, Birmingham, what would it cost for you to build us a hangar to do that type of maintenance? Well, I mean, y'all been to Birmingham. How much room is left around there? And how much do you think Birmingham Airport is going to charge them to build a hangar to do something like that? That's how we need to be thinking about the value of our airport. It's not about the value of the land in Etowah County. It's about the land that's got proximity to an airport that a company like Southwest Airlines could easily drop their airplane into and do major phased maintenance. That's just one scenario that makes me go, I'd really be kind of curious. I kind of think the numbers I'm seeing, we're underselling the value of that property. And I think that's a piece of the conversation that cannot be missed. All of the smells and all that kind of stuff, and we'll beat the drum. It's still at the airport. You can't just build new airports, especially in modern day America. That's a huge undertaking. So I don't know. Take that for what it's worth. Maybe I'm wrong in that thought process, but the value of a property is what someone's willing to pay for it.
Right.
Um, so and airplane mindset, proximity, it's no different to land here than it is to land in Birmingham as far as flying an airplane in. Anywho's, sorry, that was just a side note I saw in there. Let me get back to some legal questions. So can the remaining council members that are against this pass an ordinance against rendering plant? And in this, a resolution is not binding, an ordinance is binding.
So part of what I had been discussing with um, the Advanced Etowah team and others is drafting an ordinance to give to the city that would require that any permit issued for a rendering type facility, the council would have to approve, some stopgap so that if abatements weren't sought, if they tried to sidestep going through the approval of the city that required them to go to the city, they can't really pass an ordinance that prohibits a whole industry from coming. They can regulate it. They can change their zoning laws to put it kind of, out in the middle of nowhere. There's multiple ways that the city can kind of make it burdensome for an industry to come that they don't want until a building permit is obtained. When companies apply for a permit or a license, that's when the laws that are in place at that point are what
they have to go by.
They have to go by. So, if they wanted to do that, there are some strategic ways the city could make it really. Heck, it's zoned I-1 right now. Arguably, they could pass the rendering, amend their zoning ordinance to create rendering as a category and make it not even I-2. They could make it some category that's off in the middle of nowhere. I mean, there's multiple things that the council can do that would make it impossible for a rendering plant to come here. And honestly, like Jason Wilson and I've talked to him about that. He's been really helpful to talk some of that stuff through. He doesn't have the support of the rest of the council, I don't believe. That's a question more for him than it is for me, but that's the concern is, I can help work that up, but whether or not the support from the council or the will of the council is there in order to take these stopgap measures. But if it was, then absolutely there are multiple ways, and I could spend an hour talking about ways you could amend the city ordinances in order to do that in a legal way that doesn't just say no rendering plants are allowed, but that does it. Does that open the city up to possibly being sued if Pilgrim's Pride, says that it was solely done for the purposes to exclude a rendering plant? It might. So what? At least they are stopped until it goes to court. I get tired of this. Well, it doesn't mean it, or Pilgrim's Pride could challenge it. We heard that about the bill that Andrew Jones. It was great. It'll end up in court. Well, good. That's better than it being here. At least we're fighting on the side of them being stopped. And what's the harm if you don't want it? And so I don't really buy the argument of, well, it would you just end up in court. Well, okay. But yeah, there's multiple ways, and if you know, I hope I don't know if the will of the council is there. I know a couple of them are open to that, but two people isn't gonna get it done up there. And I could be completely wrong. I'm speculating. It may be
Right.
all of them would vote absolutely that we're going to do whatever it takes. Those are the kind of conversations we should be having,
Right.
right? If they are willing to do it, great. Let's come up with a plan. Let's figure it out. It's not that hard, you know. But
I believe that's what David Chadwick's been saying for the
I
last
was
7
literally
months.
about to say I'm quoting David Chadwick. That is so funny. We've been around David till we like it's not that hard, people.
I mean, the proof's in the pudding.
Mm-hmm.
If he's built choice, he might have
Mm-hmm.
something to listen to.
He goes, it's simple. And he's
Um,
right. It is. It really isn't this hard.
I saw a question in there. Sorry, I've lost it. But basically, the gist of the question was if Ben Reed subpoenaed and he comes and he says I don't know anything, and there's no documents that counter that he says he doesn't know anything, then what?
I believe the water documents I posted make it, you know, appear to show that he was the chairman of the water board
Right.
that approved the CDG contract that
So the best
did the
case scenario
engineering.
is that
I mean,
he's incompetent at running a water board
he's the
if
chairman.
if he's the chairman, but he doesn't know anything about the
The
request for
CDG
grants.
contract, he approved he was the chairman that approved the art grant that was for Pilgrim's Pride. It says it in the art grant.
Right.
I mean, he was there. I don't fathom that, but I didn't get a chance to put him on the stand, and so maybe that was what he was going to say. But I do have records that would imply or seem to show that he did or should have known that the Pilgrim's Pride was the industry coming to the airport because the water board, was actively working to get a grant to get them here, and he was the chairman of the water board. And if you watch the water board meetings, and you just watch the council meetings, I mean, Ben Reed is not a fern in the corner. I mean, he's the chairman. I mean, and I'll leave it at that.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Reba, I think she's asked this question in one way or another a couple of times, so I better answer her because I don't want Reba mad at me.
No, whatever Reba wants.
She's asking if Chad Hare has stepped down from or recused himself from the airport authority.
Here's what I was told at the last airport meeting that I was at, which was not the work session, but the one before that. I asked Jonathan Welch whether or not Chad was still on the airport authority. I was told yes, but he's not coming to any more meetings. His term ends in June, and he will roll off.
Okay.
So I'm paraphrasing, but if Welch, if I'm saying that wrong, tell me I'm saying that wrong. My understanding from the conversation was that yes, he's on it, but he's not coming to any more meetings. He rolls off in June. So
perhaps another great opportunity to get someone on the airport authority board that has aviation background and experience.
I think there's two or three coming open in June. I think Chad's one of them. I think there's a couple. Yeah. So.
And I want to reiterate, because we've had it seems like some confusion on. There are some good people that could bring a lot of value to the airport authority board. I know Jonathan and I have talked about this some publicly. We've answered some questions. Jonathan particularly is a guy who earns a living at the airport. Me, who I used to earn a living at the airport, and our stance right now is that the next person appointed to that airport authority board needs to have some aviation background. Not to say other good people that don't have would not, hey, if David Chadwick wanted to be on the airport authority board, I would definitely say he'd bring a ton of value, but he's not the right person to throw on there next because he doesn't have the aviation background. Hopefully that point is clear and understood. We're not saying that everybody should be, but it makes absolutely zero sense to have no one on that board that has any aviation background, period. So maybe bring that up. Maybe contact some of the council members and make sure that that's your desire. I know that Jonathan is definitely helping encourage folks to throw their name in the hat, and finding out, because contrary to what some folks have said, it's actually not all that hard to find some folks around this community that A, have experience in aviation, and B, have a desire to see that airport grow and have a plan and be developed and used for what its potential is. So,
Well, I know, Mike Ray was on the board
mm-hmm.
and then I think he just, there's just, I think he expressed concerns that there just wasn't this sort of aviation
Yep.
centered board. He was kind of the lone wolf. So we need more than one, right? We need that to be the, the majority,
Yep.
we need more than just one, doing
And
that.
Christie King, I see that comment about Mike Ray. Yeah, he's fought the fight. I have much empathy for him, and appreciate the hard efforts that he has done. So, and who knows if some crazy thing like what is going on now had occurred and been in place when he was on that board, hopefully conversations would be a good bit different. And if y'all don't know anything about who Mike Ray is and what his background is on the Airport Authority Board, then probably that conversation somewhere in the past. All right. Let me get back into some questions. How long have we been going now?
I don't know.
Oof.
Gosh, almost an hour.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. I've been trying to flow the conversation with the questions and not totally go back and forth, because we're getting a lot of similar questions. I think we've covered a lot of stuff tonight. Oh, the land bank question. Yeah, lots of questions about the land bank. Can you explain the land bank and their role in all of this?
I have about a inch deep knowledge of the land bank. My understanding is that because there were so many condemned properties, you guys have seen the council meetings where all these houses are being demolished and abated for these nuisances. And so there was these demolished properties that the city had a sizable lien for the cost in order to demolish the structure on them.
Okay.
And it was a way to and that lien creates a cloud on title. It's hard for someone to come in and buy that property from the owner, and it has a lien, and sometimes there's tax liens on it, and it's just a messy title. So the result is that those properties just sit. And so the city took a page out of several other cities that have developed a successful land bank, where they try to bring these properties, clean up the title, bring it into the land bank, run it through the quiet title procedure where the court sort of, fixes all of the title problems that sometimes title problems are you can't fix them there. And so it takes a court to sort of wipe everything out and make a clean slate in order to do all of that. And it's hard. It's not easy. It's not like the city can just, or anybody can come in quiet title and take somebody's land. I mean, it's a very lengthy and expensive court proceeding, which is why
that's probably a good thing.
It's a very good thing, which is why it's hard for people to spend that money to buy that property, because it is a lengthy and it's relatively expensive. So the city was coming in, kind of doing that, and kind of having a inventory of properties in this land bank that people could come for a low cost and buy and put a house on, because we used to be such a larger city than we are, and so we've got all these dilapidated houses because our numbers are so much less, especially in the city. The county may be the same size, but this
Right.
city's not. And so as the population went down, that more of that, and it was a way to kind of clean some of that up. But and I know several people that were on the Land Bank Authority. They may still be on, that sort of set that up, and I know that was what the intention was to kind of create this opportunity to beautify and to rehab some of the more dilapidated
Okay.
sites and to clean title up.
So that sounds. I mean, that sounds like that's not really a fit for taking the land around the airport and
Oh
rolling
no,
that under the same thing.
no, not. It's
Yeah.
not really designed in order to do that.
Which, so speaking of that, sort of a segue, have you seen yet? Because I've heard there is an airport plan. Is that have we seen that at
I
all?
was provided, John Floyd asked for the plan, and he was provided from the airport authority like a 5-year plan, and they sent me a copy of it too. I can post it. I've leafed through it. It didn't really strike
Okay.
me as anything, but yeah, I'll be happy to
I'm
post
sure it
that.
included all sorts of wonderful development and attracting of all sorts of great aviation businesses. And okay,
It wasn't very. I read it. It wasn't very exciting for what I read. But I don't. I'm
sorry
not
for
an
those of
aviation
y'all that,
person. I don't know. Right? You could read it, Michael,
yeah,
and think it's the
I'm
most amazing thing. I don't have enough
I'm
experience.
gonna start getting more and more sarcastic the deeper and deeper we go into this.
I will post that on the opposition page or Advanced Ottawa.
Okay. And Reba again, and I don't know if it was her or somebody else that asked what's Alabama Power's involvement in all of this, knowing that they do sizable. They sell a lot of power to Pilgrim's Pride throughout the state. Do you know anything about that? Any insight?
I could speculate. Whenever you've got Alabama Power and Alpha and big industries out there, they kind of have their hands in everything, especially a large project like that. How involved they are, I don't have any clue. I haven't spoken to them.
Okay. And I know a lot of people won't like this, but it's similar to me. It's similar to if your job is running a water department and selling water, and you look at everything through the lens of making a profit by selling water, then selling water to a business that buys a lot of water is a good business decision. If you are a power company selling power to a company that buys a lot of power, could be a good decision. I am not putting words in Alabama Power's mouth by any means, but I hope people can have some perspective on some of the decision making processes. That's why the water board doesn't run the community.
That's right. That's why the
That's
airport authority should protect the airport.
correct.
I mean, that's kind of its job, not to sell water.
And that's also a good reason why you shouldn't have a whole bunch of people on the water board also on the airport authority board, unless, of course, they're willing to recuse themselves and not be a voting member, which in that case, you're kind of a wasted seat, in my opinion. But again, who am I? I don't run the county, or I run the city.
Yeah, you make more sense than all of them. So
Well,
you probably should.
So I'm just, and guys, really, I read a lot of comments. I see a lot of what the questions that y'all are asking, and there's a lot of good questions. Let me see. Okay, so Christie King, do we need to be at the courthouse on trial day?
So there's a limited number of available seats in the courtroom itself, and the courthouse is trying to keep people, apart still. And so, with the intervenors and the parties, I think the courtroom will pretty much be full between, the 26 people who've intervened, plus the attorneys, plus the parties. At this rate, there's 9 or 10 attorneys on the other side, and there's 3 of us on our
Yeah,
side.
there's a question on who's got their own lawyers now. Do you know off the top of your head?
So yes and no. So like the water board lawyer is the water board lawyer, but he also filed a motion to quash the subpoena for Chad Hare individually. And so whether he's taking the position that Chad was subpoenaed in his personal capacity or as the executive director of the water board, it's a blurry. Nobody has their own. Does that make any sense? Like they
Yeah.
should.
Yeah.
I think they should. In fact, that's good advice. I think that the board has an attorney. I think that these executive directors or manager, whatever, that are being asked these questions, it would be a good idea for them to have their own attorney.
And I'd take that a step further with back to the conversation we were having earlier about what's going on with city council members and all the members of our government. I'm at the point to very, very easily say publicly, everybody needs to question the thoughts on the information they've thought they were receiving that was good information from all sorts of, not just on the legal basis, but there's clearly something odd, something dysfunctional going on. And the thing I have learned in all of this, and again, this is just my personal opinion. Maybe I'm completely wrong. I don't know, but I would question the information coming from different people that I've always thought would be, oh yeah, that's exactly the truth. Not saying they're being devious, or I mean, it may just be, well, they don't really know what they're talking about. I thought they did, but they don't. And I'm not speaking to anyone in particular, but I just hope at this point, a lot of people in all of our government around here are going, what information am I getting from where?
Well,
Sorry, not to
no,
sidetrack, but
those
back
are,
to
I mean,
they need to get.
I'm going to pull that thread a little bit. Those are good questions, because if, you know, you need some of these people, it's time for some of these people to get advice on their own, and the entity attorney can only go so far.
Right.
Their obligations to their client are the entity, and so if they have concerns about, I just think it's a good idea for council members, and I just don't think that would be a bad idea at all, knowing that something's not adding up. And I'm not trying to say that the entity attorneys are not doing their job, but their job is to represent the entity, right? And so so I think that a lot of things just don't make sense, and I think I encourage our leaders to get all sources of information that they can to make sure that they understand what their position is and what an appropriate response is to the questions they're being asked.
Well, and case in point, I'll highlight Jason Wilson, because early on when he sat there and said, "Oh, we always, it always comes up. Everything gets, there's a chance for the public to address it, and before we ever vote on stuff." And then he did the right thing, listened to counsel from others, and it was pointed out to him, case in point, that that's not true. And he came back and said, "Oh, all right, that's not true." And I don't. I mean, that's what we need. That's what we need to happen more and more. It's not necessarily that he's a bad guy that's what he thought was happening. Again, and that's what I mean. Like, I don't think Jason Wilson's taking money and trying to push this through. I mean, I think he's honestly trying to do the best job that he can, given the knowledge and information, that he's got to try and make decisions. I just think there's a lot of other folks that are passing bad information, bad gouge, we would say in the Navy. But anywho's, enough on that. So, I think I'm about tuckered out on talking through all this.
Well,
There's so much
I'm gonna.
more.
So let me give a couple of updates while you're doing that.
Okay,
I do want to update.
I'm gonna read
things.
through
You
and,
read
and
through
make
I'll do
sure
that.
that we're getting the major stuff.
So right now, you got to remember there's three. There's the zoning case, which we've talked about, that is reset for hearing on May the 24th. And to finish Christie King's question about being there or not, I don't know if there's going to be room at the courthouse. I really, I don't. The court's just not really designed for something where it's protests and signs and that type of thing. I think that that
Let's not make the judge uncomfortable.
well, I think that form's better when you've got, councils and authorities. I would preserve that energy for that for that type of thing. And I promise I will, if there's a court hearing, I will come on alive. I will, get my phone out. Michael's taught me how to do this whole thing myself, even though I don't like it. And I'll update and let everybody know what's going on. But there may be room in the courtroom. It doesn't hurt to come up and see. And if there's not room, then it's public. It's open. And if there was more space, I'm sure the judge would be fine with as many people coming as can be in there. He's been as accommodating as he can. The zoning case. So that's set for right now for the 24th, but just y'all hang on. There's going to be a lot of updates and a lot of, but well, now this happened and that happened. And just in the advanced Etowah group, I was updating them last week, and they were like, my head is spinning. Like, there's a motion filed every 30 minutes. And so I've just decided to update them at the end of the day and do it all in some. But then you remember you got the open records case. Okay. The judge denied the motion to dismiss in that case. So we're going to go ahead and proceed with the case and get through and begin with the discovery phase, which is depositions and interrogatories and requests for production. Again, just more and more hammering on what tell us what the information is. We can't be expected to go to trial, whether it's in the zoning case or in the open records case, without evidence. And part of the legal case is you give me your evidence and I'll give you mine, and we try our case fair and square in front of a judge. That's all we're trying to achieve, is just the normal process that any court case would have. We're proceeding with that. If there's any other obstructions that are put in our way, or any more legal wrangling designed in order to design that, expect that. I expect it. Y'all expect it. I'll keep everybody updated on it. Feel free to PM me if you're not sure. I'll try to keep it in simple as I can, but man, I'll get as detailed and legal with you as you want. Remember, there's also the administrative admin appeal of the ADM air permit that was issued. So had a scheduling conference with the administrative law judge, ADM, and Haley and Sarah, the amazing environmental team that you had on to talk.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're just amazing. And so that's proceeding as well. There will be discovery and deposing people and requests. All of that will be part of that as well too.
And we got New York lawyers involved in
that's the water case.
the water case.
Y'all, we have so many fronts to this battle. I'm just.
We got attorneys from New York.
That's the water. No, I'm talking about the air case. That's Colorado. Those are our Colorado lawyers.
This is why our head spins, Christie.
That's right. I'm sorry. The water cases are New York lawyers, and Justin, the Coosa River Keepers rock star. So that's the water. I'm not even going to talk about what's going on with that. I'll update everybody next week, because I've got some stuff going on with the water case going on this week. But the air permit appeal is going on, and we've got a scheduling order that should be issued soon. We think that administrative appeal will probably happen in August. So, but again, I will update it. So, you know what? You can say it's a done deal all day long. We got too many fronts to this battle. We've got too much left to fight. So just hang in there with us, and but the best solution is the local one. And I talk a little about, is the FAA gonna? I've said from the beginning, I am not counting on the FAA to swoop in, pun intended. The FAA swoop in and come in and solve all of this. They might. I hope they very well do. Whether or not birds are enough of an issue for them or not, I don't know. But if we're relying on the FAA, then we have not done our job in the local level, which is where we need to handle this. So. And
I'll on the FAA side, and I am far from an expert, but I've stayed in a couple Holiday Inns, and I've got I spent 3 good years working shoulder to shoulder with an air traffic controller for the Navy, dealing with FAA around airports, airport development, local development. I was, not just from the aviation side, flying in the cockpit, understanding how the FAA operates, but understanding from the development standpoint. And I have very little confidence the FAA is going to stop this. The FAA off the books may sit there and look at us going, you guys are nuts to do this. This is a ridiculous thing to do.
But if you
But
want to
their
ruin your airport, have
but
at it.
their job is to enforce federal aviation regulations. That's why, and we can get into a whole different thing of how they issue laws and regulate airspace and all of that kind of stuff. And again, I'm not an expert, um, but this is just my understanding. You've got things like what they call advisory circulars. Basically, the FAA is given guidance and recommendations. They're certainly willing to help communities with how are the best ways to develop zoning around your airports, work with you. I was involved with a thing called a joint land use study, which was a DOD and one of the other departments is at the federal level, that you did a study to figure out the economic impacts and how to lay out your zoning and all that kind of stuff. But one of the, and this is one of the examples. When I was in South Texas, the FAA would not come in and say you can't build a windmill. That was a big problem. They build windmills, they mess up radars, and they do back in 2008 when everybody was building these giant wind farms. They build a big tower. If somebody wants to put a big tower up, a cell tower, the FAA is not going to tell you can't do that. What they may do is say that's a hazard aviation, and the company that was going to build that tower then has a hard time getting insurance because the FAA has declared it a hazard aviation, and then they don't build it there because it's too expensive. Those are the different ways that's just what I have seen in how the FAA deals with this kind of stuff. I've dealt a lot with the bash side of things. Um, you know, that's not, I mean, they again, they have advisories, they have recommendations going, this is how you deal with bird stuff. But to my knowledge, they're highly unlikely to come down and say, you should not build this in your community at your airport because it will be a bird hazard. That's just my experience. Again, I am not an expert by any stretch. I'm just sharing what my experience is and why I'm very, very concerned about a lot of people saying, "Oh, the FAA that's our last ditch effort," and why I would pound the drum even bigger when you say we should not depend on the FAA.
I mean, in my list
And I don't mean that as against the FAA. Those guys, I mean, it's amazing if you really get into how complicated and how few problems we have in airspace, how few crashes. I mean, like, it's a very complicated thing. So I don't say that like the FAA is not doing their job. They're doing their job.
this just isn't their job.
This just isn't their job.
And when you look at the list of the top ways in which we focus our energy and time on, that it's there, FAA, but it's certainly not. And again, we're doing everything. I mean, if there's an option, we're exploring it.
And if you're interested in getting involved in that, we have action groups for just about all aspects of it. So feel free to reach out to us. Just a little plug there. I saw Darlene jumped in there earlier. If you are interested in being on the Gadsden Airport Authority, if you can't find how to get it in there, reach out to us and we'll get you set up so you can throw your name in the hat.
Or buy an Advanced Etowah shirt. Wear the shirt. Wear the hat. Just put a sign out. We need.
Now you're pushing merch.
I know. Well, I'm just saying. Those are simple ways. To come to these meetings, talk. And people don't think that's a big deal. It is. It's a big deal. I've said from the very start that what's going to stop this is you. You're what's going to stop this.
Yep.
I can help be a voice for that, but without you, I can't do this. And so it's saying, keeping aware on the Facebook page and gosh, we have such a great group of smart people that ask great questions and follow what's going on, and just just continue to do that, and continue to talk. And I really love, Michael, what you're doing too, to talk about, what can we be?
Yeah.
We've talked about rendering so much to what could we be? And sometimes you want to talk about what you don't want to be, but sometimes you need to talk about, well, here's what I'd rather. What's the vision? And our leaders, some leaders are talking about that, and you have those on and can talk about,
Mm-hmm.
what we can be, because we can come out of this, awake.
Right.
And that's what I hope this is going to
And
turn into.
and I will beat the drum, like we talked about last week with how to run for office. My main concern, guys, is there's a lot of people that are going to wake up and are paying attention, and a lot of drum beating and a lot of rah rahing on Facebook. But when the rubber hits the road, the only way that we move forward as a county is people getting involved. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean running for office, but we need people to run for office. I mean, and we talked last week. There's going to be a huge turnover, and I'm not saying that just in a we're threatening to get rid of a bunch of people. Like, there are already a number of people that have openly said, I'm not running again. I'm out. We've got a lot of retirements that are occurring. There's a lot of turnover happening in our community right now. And so we need people to say, yep, I'm willing, I'm passionate about it. I'm willing to do the time. I think you can attest, or I think any of the city council members would definitely say, it's not easy. And I think, given out of all of this, everyone should be well aware there's a lot of brokenness and a lot of issues. And so the next group that get in there going to have a lot of work to do.
A lot to clean up.
Um,
and some people, those leaders who think that by the time they run for office, we will have forgotten about that, are wrong.
Yes.
And not because they necessarily support the rendering plan, but if they're just not wanting to do anything because they think, well, I'm just going to not say anything, because that's the old way of doing things.
Right.
That is very much the old political way of doing things around here. I'm just going to stay quiet and not get in the line of fire, and everybody will forget about this when it's time for me to run to office, and it'll be fine. That is not who we are anymore. And if you are still going by the old playbook of what works here in Etowah County, I believe you're wrong. And I think people are not going to be the same.
To be blunt, the people that get elected, and I know, and it was interesting to me to talk through, the numbers and percentages of people that, once you become an incumbent in local elections, it's very hard to get out because people just recognize your name. And a lot of us just don't pay attention. And so we just recognize the name. So if I have to, I'm going to start a campaign to vote for the name that you don't recognize. If that's all I've got to go on, then that's what I'll do. Because I'm sorry, but if you've been around here forever, we just talked earlier about why do we have this land bank and why do we have these issues? Because our population has gone down. Why has our population gone down? Well, because we're not having growth, because we're not attracting new businesses. Why are we freaking out about this? Well, because Goodyear's leaving. How did you not see? What has been the plan?
We've been talking about
on
it
and
for 10
on
years,
and on and on about all of this. So we need fresh people. We need new ideas. We need you to be involved and pay attention. And if all that means is pay attention for the next 12 months, stay informed, read, don't listen to people, don't listen to the rhetoric, don't listen to the one-liners, don't listen to the person that says, oh, well, a buddy of a buddy, a guy I know says. That's what we got to stop doing. And so we're trying to put the information out there and making it as easy as we can. I'll tell you, if you want to know what's going on in this community, Reba Stanley is a person you need to talk to because she's everywhere. I see some comments and questions about protesting and making sure they know that we're still there. If nothing else, Reba showing up with her camera and going live and they know,
They know.
they're aware.
They know.
And I'm sure they're uncomfortable in a lot of these meetings that she's showing up to, that she has every right to, because nobody's ever done that before. And that's pretty cool to me. All right.
Well, and I think that when you look at the lack of growth and the lack of a comprehensive plan, and these, there's just so many low hanging fruit that it's just that getting the right leadership in there who has a vision, and that being that the Jason Wilsons are not the rare exception of our leaders, because he is that vision kind of a guy,
Oh, yeah.
right? And so you see him up there
No
sometimes.
one can argue that he has
Is the
not
vision.
spent a lot of time thinking about a community and ways to develop it and all that kind of stuff.
And when you look at, I mean, after, and you know, sometimes I look at Jason, I think he just looks beat down, because he's like the lone voice sometimes up there, just, you know, and he keeps fighting we need more people, so he's not the unusual one. Now,
Yep.
you know, and so because it's hard, and so I think those are, you know, those kind of people that you know, we got to have people all kinds, but I just think that some new blood, some new ideas, and some new names, and people who just go, you know, that's just not how we do it here anymore. Um, that's what I want to see.
Well, guys, if I missed your question, I
It's late.
apologize. We've covered a bunch, so thank you. On behalf of them, thank you, Christy, for your
Oh
time.
gosh,
Um,
it is such a privilege and an honor to be part of this, and the just thank you. And Michael, you know, you're here away from your wife and kids here at 9 o'clock at night too, and we all are. We're all fighting it the way that we can. So thank you to just, and David Chadwick and the Chadwick family. You know, just, you know, whatever it takes, Christy, just get it done. You know, just, yeah, he's amazing. So
well,
Julie really is, you know, David. You know, Julie's the one that really makes it all happen. But we're gonna give David credit. No, I'm kidding.
so guys, yeah, Christy mentioned earlier about the other conversations that I'm starting to have, and I'm enjoying it. I love learning about how to run. I love listening to Beth Ann's story. That kind of stuff motivates me. It's extremely interesting to me. I love learning from business owners, people that think about things. And so I'm planning on doing more of that. If you guys are willing to listen, if they're willing to come and talk to me, I'll talk to them even if nobody's watching. But
Well, and let me sidetrack, and not that I don't appreciate what the Gadsden Times does and what they've done. You know, Greg's done a great job this past week. Donna, I know, has been out, so I want to thank them. But let's talk. We don't have media here. What TV? What news cameras are here? Where's our media?
yeah,
They are nowhere to be. Which I'm not complaining, because they didn't do a great. I don't feel like they really dug as deeply as they could have
right.
when they were here. So I appreciate when they were, but I don't necessarily think just flying in and doing some report, but that this what you're doing in those interviews and talking, that is our media around here. We don't have any other source. Where are they going to get this news about what's happening with the rendering plant, what's happening around town, what's happening with the weigh-in at the big fish thing? Here is where you
The
get
big
that.
fish thing.
The big fish thing. Sorry,
That's where we're at.
here
Okay.
is where you get that, and that's exciting to me too. Like, when was the last time you guys were on the kind of the cutting edge of a new media concept in Gadsden? Think about that. It's pretty it's pretty cool, and even in you know, a lot of good things are coming out of this, and I think even more on the way if we can just, you know, get to the other side.
Yeah. And if we can get rid of this giant thing that's hanging in our way.
I'll get it.
There's a lot of fun stuff. So,
We're gonna fight.
um, Jeremy Stewart says, "Wild man for councilman." I live in Rainbow City. I'm not moving to Gadsden. Do you know the people that run Gadsden? I'm not living here. I'm kidding.
I was about to say, what the heck?
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, I'm excited, and I don't know. I kind of would rather have these conversations than get up and promote myself to get elected. So this is fun. I enjoy it. Like I said, I always enjoy um, having these conversations. So I've been talking to a few folks to bring them on, a few small business owners. I think David has been talked into coming on and talking about business and his background and his business and what he's been involved in and we did that early on. Had a quick conversation that a lot of people really enjoyed. I've enjoyed listening.
The man, the myth, the legend.
Yes,
David Chadwick.
Yeah, he'll be signing autographs afterwards. No, so I'm gonna bring him on. Yeah, there's a lot of good folks around here that are doing some cool things, and again, I'll hit it again. I'm tired of people talking about, oh, Gadsden sucks. There's nothing going on, and there's so much cool stuff. I mean, we just had a Bassmaster Elite tournament that closed out today. I mean, we've got so many cool things and so many people that care so much, doing some stuff, putting their heads down and they're doing their thing, and that's what we need. And I hope it encourages you. And thank y'all so much. I can't believe we are down to 55, but we had about 100 folks with us at some point. So thank y'all so much for hanging out. Thank you for doing what you're doing. Keep doing it. This is not a done deal. And please, for the love, if you hear people saying that, just tell them no, that's not true. Go get informed, jump in the opposition group or whatever, wherever you can find that information. I mean, we just got to stay positive. I think it's a lot like what I'm learning from talking to a lot of business owners. You don't hear a lot of business owners that sit around talking about how they can't do everything and how it all sucks. They're all sitting there going, I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. And that's what we've got to do as a community to move forward. So
absolutely.
Thank you, Christie.
Thank you, Michael.
I will talk to you guys later.